Seattle, I'm Ursula Royteen.
From Gig Harbor to Greenwood, this is KIRO Radio, 97.3 FM. News and talk, powered by the Pacific Northwest.
The Big Lead is brought to you by 3010 Weight Loss for Life.
The Dory Monson Show on KIRO Radio. This is The Big Lead.
Coming to you from the Carter Subaru Studios, streaming on Facebook Live. Welcome to The Big Show. And finally, things are starting to, the chickens are coming home to roost in Seattle. When you have a generation of anti-capitalist, anti-business, when you have as a template that the madness of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez forced Amazon to pull out of a New York City position that would have brought tens of thousands of well-paying jobs to New York City. This is the beginning of the floodgates. It is exactly as we predicted, and it is our top story.
The Big Lead. Top story.
So this was an exclusive at GeekWire.com about an hour ago. Amazon moving thousands of employees out of Seattle, relocating key division to nearby city, that nearby city being Bellevue. We'll talk in just a couple of minutes with the president of the Bellevue Chamber of Commerce about what this means. But Amazon has what's called a worldwide operations team. Now, this is a portion of its Seattle position, but they are moving thousands of jobs from downtown Seattle to downtown Bellevue. GeekWire obtained an internal email, and this is potentially cataclysmic for the downtown Seattle real estate market because I think it is unquestionable. Amazon with HQ2, when they first announced that, I said, well, clearly this is the beginning of them pulling out of Seattle. It didn't make any sense for a company run by Jeff Bezos that has been built on squeezing as much efficiency out of every penny of every dollar and getting their margins as tight as possible. It makes no sense for a corporation like that to have two, what they told us, tried to claim, were going to be equal but geographically separate worldwide headquarters. And that's what HQ2 was. That never made sense to me. And that was clear to me that that was the beginning of Amazon saying, we've had it. We've had it with the political climate in Seattle. We have had it with the hatred that Seattle politicians have for our corporation.
No, Jeff Bezos is our enemy. He is our enemy. And we have to fight big business. The question is, will we have elected representatives who will fight with us or not?
Now, as I told you the day we got that Sawant soundbite, what's the motivation for a politician to say something like that about the single largest employer in her city? The motivation is they don't like high-tech jobs. Socialists can't stand that people who have gone to college and have acquired the talent and the education and the ability to merit a six-figure Amazon job. They hate that. They want to bring everybody down to the level of the $15 an hour minimum wage employee. Why? Because in the view of so many socialists on the Seattle City Council, who was it, Mosqueda, who went back to New York City to tell them that it'd be horrible to let Amazon in? The goal of Seattle politics is not to lift up the poor, not to lift up the working class. Because once you elevate out of working class, lower middle class, once you start being able to take care of your own life and your own family, well, you need government less. And it is the desire of the Seattle City Council and the mayor of Seattle, who, by the way, I'm going to have more on this. This Amazon breaking news, I didn't know I was going to be talking about this an hour ago. But I was doing a lot of research on Jenny Durkin. She always talks about wealth disparity. I didn't realize that her partner is likely worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Why don't you give that to the homeless? Why don't you live like a commoner? Anyway, I'll get back to that. It's the goal of Seattle politics not to lift up people, not to allow people self-sufficiency. It is to bring others down to the level of the dependent, to the level of those who need government for most or many aspects of their life. And we're seeing the manifestation of that right now. Amazon with HQ2 started it a couple of months ago. They announced that a downtown, the Rainier Square building that they were going to lease out, that they are going to now sublease it because they're not going to use that space. And now today's news that they are going to move thousands of jobs out of Seattle into Bellevue is just a continuation of this trend. This is what you get when you elect crazies into government. When you have people calling the CEO of your largest employee or employer the enemy. And they're getting what they want. If there's a downtown real estate crash in the next few years, that's their dream. That's their dream. If some of these high rises that have been built in the exuberance of this economic bubble that has gone on longer than any bubble in our history, whenever we have the inevitable cyclical downturn of our local and national economy, Seattle's going to be hit so hard between the minimum wage and the flex scheduling and the absolute contempt for business owners, for employers, for job creators, for taxpayers. Seattle is one of the worst positioned cities in the country for an economic downturn. But again, this is by design. Don't anybody believe that this is not being carefully manipulated by socialists and Marxists who have taken over Seattle government. Their dream is being realized. Okay, so that's what it means for Seattle. What does this mean for Bellevue? Up next in the Big Lead.
The Big Lead. Top story.
All right, continuing with our Big Lead coverage. So, Amazon moving thousands of jobs from Seattle to Bellevue. We will continue to talk about what this means for Seattle and the political climate there, but what does it mean for Bellevue? Joe Fain is a former state senator who is now the president of the Bellevue Chamber of Commerce. He joins us here on KIRO Radio. Joe, always good to talk to you.
Hey, thanks, Dory. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, so what does this mean for Bellevue, that Amazon is moving thousands of jobs from Seattle to Bellevue?
Well, in some ways, it's an exciting opportunity. In other ways, it's just more of the same. We've seen this type of major growth in the Bellevue tech sector for a number of years, and we've seen companies that have seen what Bellevue has to offer on a whole host of items. So it's no surprise that they'd want to do this, but it is an exciting opportunity to see such a great international company really double down on its commitment to the city.
Okay, let me have you take a step back to your prior career as a state senator. What does this say about Seattle and Seattle's politics and Seattle's business environment that Amazon wants to move so many thousand jobs out?
Well, I don't look at it so much as a Seattle versus Bellevue kind of thing. I mean, clearly there are very strong elements still at play in Seattle, and they've seen businesses that have gone from Bellevue to Seattle. But the reality is, I do think there are some companies that want to be in an environment that's got a stable political culture, that has stable communities, and I think Bellevue has to offer that. So I don't think it's an either or, but it is showing that Bellevue has a lot to offer for these companies, both big and small.
Okay, we've seen how it's the growth of Amazon in particular, how it's impacted Seattle as far as traffic and mobility and all of that. Bellevue's already, I mean, it's tough for me to get to Bell Square for the Candy Cane Lane or whatever the the Christmas thing is now. What does this mean for Bellevue? How do you absorb so much new growth in the next few years?
Well, that is the question, and I think you've asked it the right way. How do you absorb the new growth? It's a question. It's a problem statement. And if you've got a functioning political organization like our current city council, if you have civic involved companies represented here at the chamber and elsewhere, the desire is to take the problem, to sit down and figure out the solution. And there are a whole host of different things, from expanded use of automated shuttles to different technologies with ride shares to enhanced transit opportunities. This shouldn't be viewed as, oh no, Amazon's coming to town. The sky is falling. It should be viewed as, what a great opportunity. What do we need to do to prepare for it? And that's the work ahead for us.
Did you know this was coming? I know it just was breaking this morning, but had the connected people in Bellevue known this was in the works?
We know that there has been incredible increase in the city of Bellevue, particularly from Amazon, from the increased role of Vulcan, their prime developer, on some of the key spaces in the downtown core, to some additional options on leases that have been taken out. And there's been, millions of square feet of real estate that have been bantered around, numbers in that magnitude over the last several weeks and months. And so it doesn't come as a surprise to us, but it does come with a timeline now that seems to be inching forward. It does show that this seems to be now more inevitable than it's been in the past.
Okay, and finally, since you're a bit of an insider, is this the beginning of floodgates of Amazon moving out of Seattle, do you think?
I don't know. I can't comment on that. Seattle's got a lot to offer, and it's a great city. And I know that it has a lot of problems, and we've seen it in recent very highly publicized exposés on some of the key problems that the city faces. But Seattle is still a great city. Bellevue needs to be a partner with Seattle in order for our region to be strong and prosperous. But we know here in Bellevue that there are a couple things that companies really value: mobility, quality of life. It's mixing that desire to have livability after hours and good schools and strong family amenities. I mean, Bellevue has that to offer, and I think we're just going to be getting better and better.
All right. Joe Fain is the president of the Bellevue Chamber of Commerce. Joe, appreciate you coming on with me. Thank you.
My pleasure, Dory.
Up next in the Big Lead.
The Big Lead. I sense a Dory rant coming on.
So meanwhile, while Seattle is burning, Jenny Durkin, the Seattle City Council, and a lot of people in the media continue to fiddle. So, as we told you, there is now a concerted counter-narrative that is being pushed out by what they call a coalition of stakeholders, but many of them very liberal. Some are ones that I support philanthropically, like Fair Start. But there is a coalition of stakeholders that is pushing out a counter-narrative to Channel 4's Seattle is Dying. And I am telling you, someone within this consortium, they have enlisted a PR firm that appears to be based in Portland called Pyramid Communications. And they sent out a poll, or some poll results yesterday, that show that everything's fine in Seattle. What's Channel 4? What's Monson talking about? And some of it is such absolute nonsense that I can't believe this is how the city is trying to push back against some great journalism by Eric Johnson and Channel 4 on what's plaguing our region right now. But let me share with you some of these results. They say that 80% believe we have a moral obligation to help people who are homeless. Of course we do. I think that we all agree that we need to have more than anything, we need to have all of the things that'll help people reclaim their own lives. And by that, I mean drug and alcohol counseling, all the things that I've been talking about for years now. Drug and alcohol counseling, job training, mental health treatment, all of the things that people need to get their life back. But far beyond that, some of the other things that they say in this email that this PR company sent out is only 21% of the homeless cited drug and alcohol abuse as their reason for entering homelessness. Are we supposed to believe that? Is that how the city's going to counteract Channel 4's message? That only 21% of the homeless cite drug and alcohol abuse as the primary reason? I mean, how deep are they going to stick their heads in the sand? An overwhelming majority of the people who are out there on the streets are out because of drug and alcohol addiction. And they're trying to tell us it's only 1 out of 5 who are saying that. Well, of course, that's what they're going to self-claim, that they didn't contribute to this themselves. They said that 83% reported living in King County or Seattle immediately prior to losing housing. I have so thoroughly debunked that stat that I can't believe they're still trying to push that out. You know where they get that? They ask people, what was your last known address before experiencing homelessness? And so many of them list the Downtown Emergency Support Center. That doesn't mean they're from Seattle and King County. We are importing drug vagrants from around the country faster than we can house them. Everybody knows that. And they're saying this nonsense figure, 83% reported living in King County or Seattle immediately prior. Totally bogus number because it's shelters that are listed as the address. But they want you and me to feel guilty. Oh, it's the people we went to elementary school with. And then they say that more of us, they need more money, more compassion for our neighbors, including supporting the efforts to consolidate accountability. And they say that we just need to spend more money. We're spending $100,000 per homeless person per year. Here's directly from this poll they're pushing out. 53% said we are not spending enough on the issue. $100,000 per homeless person per year, and we're not spending enough on the issue? Yeah, we have no chance. If this is the counter narrative to Seattle is dying, absolute bogus polling, good luck. Jenny, council, you better start dealing with reality. That's your big lead this hour.
The Big Lead on KIRO Radio.
We're going to check the news for you. And then something that's going to affect everyone who can hear my voice if you live in this region. In Olympia, the bloodbath attempt continues. They want to raise the gas tax 31 cents a gallon. We will tell you about that right after Ursula checks the news here on the Dori Monson Show.
This hour of the Dori Monson